My family uninvited me from Thanksgiving. I got engaged, threw a party for 24 people. Then Mom texted, "How could you do this without family?" When I called my sister on Thanksgiving morning to check my arrival time, I assumed I had been forgotten. Brooke answered the fifth ring, and I could hear voices and laughter in the background. The kind of warm chaos that only happens when a house is crowded with family. "Oh my God, Miles," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I thought Mom called you." The stillness that followed told me everything I needed to know. They were already present. All of them. The entire family had gathered at my parents' house, and no one had bothered to inform me. "They called me about what?" I asked. Despite the fact that I was already aware, Brooke struggled for words. The sounds of the gathering were muffled as she walked to a quieter location. "We decided to celebrate Thanksgiving earlier this year. Like last weekend. Mom wanted to escape the holiday throng at the supermarket." Last weekend. They celebrated Thanksgiving last weekend. And somehow, despite all of the planning, preparation, and group texting, no one remembered to tell me. My phone had been quiet all week. There were no messages indicating who was providing what meal. There are no questions about my arrival time. There are no changes to the schedule. I had attributed it to everyone's preoccupation with their own preparations. I'd spent 3 days preparing my grandmother's famous sweet potato dish. The dish takes 7 hours because the potatoes must be roasted separately and the praline coating is made by hand. It was still warm on my kitchen countertop, wrapped in foil. "Why hadn't anybody told me?" I inquired. Brooke's silence was so long that I could hear my nephew shouting something in the background. I overheard my brother-in-law advise him to calm down. "I really thought Mom had called you," she finally admitted. "Miles, I apologize for the awkward situation. Would you like to come over right now? We have leftovers." Leftovers. They had celebrated Thanksgiving without me, and as a consolation, they were serving me leftovers. "No," I replied, "I'm fine." "Enjoy your day." I hung up before she could respond. 34 years old, standing in my apartment, looking at a sweet potato casserole I'd cooked for people who had forgotten about me. The rational part of my brain said it was a genuine mistake, a misunderstanding that could be addressed and forgiven, but the rest of me knew better. It wasn't the first time, but it was the most obvious, and it confirmed a pattern I'd been ignoring. I grabbed the dish and went down to my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, an elderly widow living alone, who opened the door in her bathrobe and was surprised to see me. "Miles, what is this?" she inquired. "Thanksgiving dinner," I said. "I earned too much. I thought you might enjoy it." Her expression brightened in a way that made my chest hurt. "Oh honey, this is so kind. Come inside and have some with me." I had never been added to any group conversations, and I had no idea that family gatherings were taking place until I saw photos on social media. My sister's baby shower last month, which I found out about 4 days later when my mother casually mentioned it on the phone, and my brother Grant's promotion celebration. I had assumed these were impromptu, last-minute gatherings, but after looking at the images and seeing the decor, synchronized attire, and clear preparation, I realized the truth. They were planned, just not with me in mind. I was an afterthought at best, and an oversight at worst. The pattern dated back years, and I was too preoccupied with showing up when I was invited to realize how unusual that was. At 9:30 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from my mother, and Brooke informed me about the confusion. "Sorry, honey. I thought your sister had notified you about the date change. I hope you had a pleasant, quiet Thanksgiving." The message was flippant and contemptuous of what had happened. There is confusion, a minor misunderstanding, and no fundamental statement about my position in the family hierarchy. The fact that I had spent hours preparing food for a party that had taken place without me, that I felt like an idiot for believing I was important enough to be notified, and that this was the culmination of years of being peripheral to my own family, would have no effect. They'd apologize with the same casual dismissiveness, saying I was being overly sensitive, and nothing would change. So I said nothing at all. The next morning I opened my calendar and began deleting. My mother's birthday in 4 weeks. Grant's birthday in January. Brooke's anniversary in February. My father's birthday in March. And every family birthday, anniversary, graduation, recital and holiday that I'd been keeping track of for years. It took me 25 minutes to get them all out. I had set reminders to ensure that I never forgot anyone important. They had forgotten me at Thanksgiving, and I would forget them everywhere else. The decision felt cold and planned, but it was also necessary, like amputating a gangrenous limb to save the body. I wasn't going to beg for inclusion anymore, and I wasn't going to continue showing up for people who didn't care about my existence. My mother's 66th birthday was 4 weeks later, and I didn't call, text, or send her a card. My phone remained silent the entire day. My father called the next day and said, "Miles, your mother was hurt that you didn't acknowledge her birthday." His voice had that harsh, dissatisfied tone I'd grown accustomed to, as if I had failed some hidden expectation. "I forgot," I confessed. My father exclaimed in surprise. "You forgot your mother's birthday? That is not like you." He was correct. It was unlike me. The old me. The me who worked tirelessly to maintain connections that were never reciprocated. But I was trying on a new version of myself, one who didn't take other people's criticism personally. "I've had a lot on my mind," I said. "I'm sure she understands." My father's silence implied that she did not understand. "She is your mother, Miles. You should call her." I said I would and then hung up, with no intention of following through. As a senior architect at a downtown company designing sustainable housing projects for urban regeneration, I poured myself into a new project, a mixed-use complex that would provide affordable homes to a severely underserved area. The task was both challenging and rewarding, requiring all of my creative energy and technical abilities. My manager Marissa noticed the increased intensity. "You're outputting at an incredible pace," she said during our monthly check-in. "Is everything okay outside of the office?" I assured her that everything was fine, and in some ways it was. The absence of family obligations had freed up space in my mind that I had not realized was filled. No more mental reminders about whose birthday was coming up. There will be no more guilt for skipping a random family meeting. No more playing the role of a good son and brother when it was never returned. I was lighter without the weight. Grant celebrated his birthday in January. He was turning 39, and his wife Sloane had spent months planning a lavish surprise party. I knew this because she texted me in November, asking if I could help set up the venue. Of course I agreed because it was what the older Miles would have done. But when the day arrived, I simply did not show up. I didn't cancel. I didn't explain. I simply let my commitment vanish, as if it never existed. Sloane called me 3 times during the party. I did not react. The next day Grant left a bewildered and angry message. "What the heck, dude? Sloane counted on you, and we had to hustle to get things ready. This is not like you." That sentence again. This is not like you. They treated me as if the version they knew was the only one, as if I couldn't change, disengage, or defend myself. I listened to Grant's voicemail twice before deleting it without responding. 4 days later, he tried again, this time sounding less angry and more concerned. "Miles, are you okay? Mom claimed you didn't call on her birthday either. People are worried." The compassion seemed forced, as if he was checking a box rather than truly caring. If he was truly concerned, he could have noticed my absence before I stopped showing up. He could have asked why I didn't join the family group chat. He could have asked me to events instead of relying on our parents to make all the arrangements. But Grant had never been one to look beyond his immediate needs. None of them were. They lived in a bubble of family unity and assumed I was among them, despite the fact that they repeatedly demonstrated otherwise. Brooke marked her anniversary in February. 16 years of marriage to Travis, whom I had never liked, but had always been polite to for her sake. They were throwing a large party at a winery 90 minutes away from the city. The invitation had arrived in the mail 2 months before Thanksgiving, before everything changed. It sat on my refrigerator, held up with a magnet, as a reminder of the old responsibilities I was relinquishing. On the day of the celebration, I went trekking instead. I drove 3 hours north to a path I had been wanting to explore. I spent 7 hours walking through the winter woods, only hearing my thoughts and the crunching of frozen leaves beneath my boots. My phone buzzed occasionally in my backpack, but I did not check it. When I got back to my car around twilight, I found 16 missed calls and 27 text messages. The messages ranged from worried to furious to guilt-tripping. Brooke inquires, "Where are you?" "Everyone is asking about you," my mother said. "Today is Brooke's special day. You should be here." Grant tells him to stop being a child and get to the winery. My father. "Your behavior is unacceptable and hurtful." Travis is surprised. "Hello, dude. I hope you're fine." Brooke is worried. I read them all while sitting in my car as the temperature dropped and darkness descended on the parking lot. Then I turned off my phone and drove home alone. The claims of being a child and engaging in improper behavior rang hollow. These were people who had forgotten to invite me to Thanksgiving, hosted a large family gathering without me, and accepted uncertainty as an explanation. Their sudden concern about my absence felt more like annoyance that I wasn't performing my assigned function. When I finally picked up my phone that night, there was a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was tense from suppressed rage. "Miles, I'm not sure what's gotten into you lately, but this behavior has to stop. You're causing pain to those who care about you." Brooke sobbed at her own anniversary celebration because her brother couldn't be bothered to attend. "Your father and I raised you much better than that. Call me." I saved the voicemail but did not call back. The phrase "people who love you" seemed like a weapon, designed to compel rather than soothe. Did they adore me? Or did they prefer the version of me who turned up when summoned, volunteered when asked, and never sought recompense? The more I reflected on it, the less confident I became that I had ever been loved for who I was rather than what I could contribute. There were several events in March. My father's birthday is on the 5th, my nephew's 7th birthday party is on the 12th, and I learned about a family dinner on the 18th from a Facebook event that my cousin had unintentionally invited me to. I did not attend any of them. I acknowledged none of them. I lived in a vacuum of my own creation, cut off from the familial ecology into which I was born. My mother stopped calling when I didn't show up for my father's birthday. Brooke tried a few more times, her messages becoming increasingly urgent. "Miles, I don't understand what's going on. Please talk to me and tell me what we did wrong." The fact that she couldn't figure out what they'd done wrong was enough of an explanation. If they couldn't see the pattern, the years of marginalization and casual rejection, explaining it would be pointless. Elena, my girlfriend, had been recommending it for months, gently observing that I was distant and that something was definitely hurting me. Dr. Samuel Park, a family systems therapist, specialized in adult children from dysfunctional households. During our first meeting, I told him about Thanksgiving, the wiped calendar, and the activities I had stopped attending. He listened without judgment and took occasional notes. After I finished, he remained silent for a long time. "What you're describing is a pattern of parentification and invisible labor," he responded. "You are expected to maintain family ties, remember important events, and show up on a regular basis. However, such efforts were not reciprocated. When you removed that work, the system started to fail." The clinical analysis of what I'd been feeling was beneficial. It wasn't in my brain, and I wasn't being overly sensitive. It was a true dynamic with a name. The sessions helped me realize something important. My family's sense of unity was based on my unseen job. I was the one who remembered birthdays, made plans, and sought out to stay connected. When I stopped doing that work, the relationships dissolved, not because we weren't close, but because we had never been close in a reciprocal sense. I was the architect of our family ties, and they would cease to exist unless I actively built and nurtured them. "What do you want?" Dr. Park inquired during our 6th session. "From them, from yourself, or from this situation?" I'd been asking myself that same question for months. What I wanted was for them to miss me, to understand what they'd lost, and to understand that my presence wasn't guaranteed but had to be earned and maintained. While an apology would be nice, acknowledgement would be even better. In May, my cousin Javier got engaged, and the news was announced on Facebook with a photo of him and his partner, Lucas, bringing their hands up to display identical rings. The post received 80 responses, with all family members thanking them and expressing delight. I almost commented as well, but I stopped myself. Javier and I were close as children, but as adults, we grew apart. He'd been to Thanksgiving, the event from which I had been excluded, and he knew I wasn't there but didn't say anything. He hadn't contacted me since. I loved the shot and went on with my day. 3 weeks later, the invitation to the engagement party arrived, and I threw it away without opening it. Elena proposed to me on a Saturday morning climb, took out a ring at Mount Tamias's peak, and asked me to marry her in front of a dozen people who immediately began cheering. I said yes, overcome with delight and love for the sheer fact that someone saw me, truly saw me, and chose me. We called our closest friends that afternoon and decided to throw a small engagement party the following month. When Elena asked if I wanted to invite or inform my family, my chest tightened. "No," I said. "I don't want them there." She didn't push or try to persuade me that family should be involved despite everything. Instead, she simply nodded and gripped my hand, saying, "Then it's just us and the people who actually show up for us." The relief was profound. Elena's family was kind and accepting, incorporating me into their dynamic as if I had always been there. Her mother, Marianne, spent an hour recounting humiliating anecdotes from Elena's upbringing, and her father, Khalil, took me aside to officially welcome me to the family and express his gratitude. The engagement celebration was ideal, with 24 people who cared, had been there through various life hardships, and congratulated us without hidden motivations or conditional love. When we cut the engagement cake, I looked across the room and realized I hadn't missed anyone. Despite knowing little about me, these people were more present and genuinely happy for me than my parents had ever been for any of my accomplishments. My family learned about the news through social media, where Elena shared images from the celebration and tagged me, and several of my cousins saw them. Within 45 minutes my phone started ringing, first with my mother, then with Brooke, and finally with Grant, who I let go to voicemail. The messages came next. My mother. Miles, I can't believe I had to find out about your engagement on Facebook. How could you not have informed us? How could you have a party without your family? Brooke. I'm very hurt. We should have celebrated your engagement together. This is cruel. Grant says, wow. Is that how things are now? We are not even worth a phone call. The sense of entitlement in their messages was breathtaking. After 6 months of silence, and 6 months of them not contacting me to find out why I had retreated, they felt entitled to share in my joy. I typed a single response and sent it to the family group chat, to which I had never been added before, thanks to Elena's sister Haley, who did so first. I've got engaged, I had a party. I invited those who are constantly present in my life. That list did not include any of you. Then I turned off the chat and waited while the alerts piled up. 58 messages in 12 minutes. I had not read any of them. Dr. Samuel Park would probably call me passive-aggressive and recommend direct communication. But I'd tried direct communication. When I called Brooke on Thanksgiving morning, she explained that it was a misunderstanding. I had been on the outskirts of their lives for years, and they hadn't noticed. They have now taken notice. I suddenly felt important because I was happy and celebrating in their absence. The hypocrisy was maddening. Elena found me on our balcony that evening, watching the sunset. Your family's losing their minds, she said, showing me her phone. They had begun messaging her, attempting to contact me through her. Her responses had been polite and firm. This is between Miles and his family. I'll assist him with whatever he requires. She sat beside me and took my hand. Would you like to talk about it? I told her about the messages and my sudden, desperate desire to be included. She listened and then said something that summarized everything. They don't miss you. They miss the function you performed. The person who remembered birthdays, showed up, and helped the group feel like a family. They miss your work, not you. She was right. If they had missed me as a person, they would have contacted me months ago, asked why I had gone silent, and tried to understand rather than simply waiting for me to return. My grandmother, who was 94 years old and had been declining for years, passed away in July. I learned about her death from my father's brother, Uncle Bennett, who called me. Miles, I wanted you to hear it from family, not through the grapevine. Your grandmother died peacefully last night in her sleep. The news hit me harder than expected. Grandma Evelyn was one of the few family members who always acknowledged me and made me feel important. But I hadn't seen her in months because I was too angry with the rest of the family to keep her away from them. When is the funeral? I asked. Uncle Bennett gave me the information. 4 days from now, on Saturday morning, at the church she'd been attending for 65 years. I said I'd be there, hung up, and immediately regretted it. Elena noticed me staring at nothing and processing. Do you want me to accompany you? She inquired. I nodded, grateful for the offer. The prospect of confronting my family alone at a funeral where emotions would be high appeared impossible. The next 4 days passed in a blur. I took time off work, helped Elena organize her schedule so she could join me, and mentally prepared for the inevitable confrontation. During an emergency session, Dr. Park asked about my goals. I want to say goodbye to my grandmother, I informed her. The rest of them can think whatever they want. He nodded slowly. Remember that you are free to grieve without engaging with those who have hurt you. Attending a funeral does not absolve anyone of any responsibility. The ability to feel both grief and anger simultaneously felt revolutionary. The funeral was packed. Grandma Evelyn was beloved by her community, and the church was packed with people who had known her for decades. My family had gathered in the front pews. My mother noticed me first, as Elena and I slid into a pew in the back. Her expression alternated between surprise, relief, and anger. She spoke to my father, who turned to look. Brooke was the next one to notice me, followed by Grant. Even from 50 feet away, their attention felt suffocating. I focused on the service, the pastor's comments about Grandma Evelyn's life, and the hymns she had liked. Elena held my hand throughout, providing a calming anchor in the whirlpool of family dynamics that surrounded us. After the service, a reception was held in the church basement. I considered skipping it, but Elena reminded me that it was about my grandmother and not them. We went downstairs and were immediately stopped by my mother. She appeared to be older than I remembered and tired. "Miles," she replied, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm so glad you arrived. We need to talk." I shake my head. "Not today. Today is about Grandma." My mother's jaw clenched. "You've been neglecting us for 9 months. We deserve an explanation." The word deserve was not typed correctly. "You're deserving." I kept my voice low, aware of the crowd surrounding us. "You neglected to invite me to Thanksgiving. I forgot I existed. And you didn't realize I stopped doing everything I could to keep our connections alive until it was too late. So no, I do not believe you deserve anything." My father arrived alongside my mother, his demeanor harsh. "That is enough. Your grandmother recently died. This is not the time or place for drama." The rejection and the labeling of my pain as theater solidified everything. "You're right," I said. "This isn't the time or place." I turned to leave, but Brooke blocked my path. "Miles, please. We miss you. Can't we simply talk about it?" Her eyes were red. I couldn't tell whether it was due to sadness or the encounter. "You don't miss me," I said gently. "You miss the person who made your life easier." "There is a difference." Elena gently grasped my elbow, and we walked past Brooke, my brother standing awkwardly at the food table, and the aunts and uncles staring with undisguised curiosity. We paid our respects to Uncle Bennett, signed the visitor's book, and left. In the car, I felt like I could breathe again. "That was awful," Elena said. "I'm sorry." I shook my head. It was necessary. They needed to understand that I was not coming back on their terms. The funeral served as a watershed moment. After that, the messages stopped. The frantic attempts to contact me to demand a reconciliation have been halted. It was as if they had all decided I was a hopeless case and moved on. Part of me felt relieved. Part of me felt strangely sad. Mourning the family I desired but never had. Dr. Samuel Park assisted me with both. You can grieve the loss of a relationship, even when that relationship was harmful, according to him. The grief isn't about what you had. It's for what you deserved, but never received. August marked the beginning of serious wedding planning. Elena and I agreed on a simple ceremony for October. Only 55 individuals, each one unique and meaningful. As we went through the guest list, she would occasionally ask about family members. "How about your Aunt Denise? You stated that she was polite to you." I would think about it, then shake my head. Denise had been nice, but she had also been there for Thanksgiving. She knew I wasn't there but didn't say anything. "No," I would answer. "Just your family, and our friends." The guest list ended up being 46 people, all of whom I could count on to show up, none of whom would forget I existed and be surprised when I left. The contrast with my previous family gatherings, where I was always an afterthought, was startling. September brought an unexpected letter. It arrived in my mailbox, handwritten address and no return label. Inside was a 4-page letter from my mother. The penmanship was wobbly and passionate. She wrote about the past year, about not knowing what went wrong and feeling as if she had lost a son. She finally wrote about Thanksgiving and addressed it directly. "I know we hurt you that day. I know we should have informed you of the timetable change, but Miles, it was one error. One missed invitation. Does that really justify cutting off your entire family?" She wrote about missing my youth, all the ways she had tried to be a good mother, and how my current behavior was hurting her. "I'm begging you," the letter ended. "Please come home. Please talk to us. We love you and need you back." I read the letter 3 times. The first time I felt the old, familiar guilt. The second time, I realized what was missing. There is no recognition of the pattern. There was no understanding that Thanksgiving was not an isolated event, but rather the culmination of years of exclusion. No apologies for not realizing I'd gone silent and not reaching out to ask why. Just focus on her anguish, her loss, and her desire for me to return. The third time, I became enraged. The letter was pure manipulation, emotional blackmail meant to make me feel responsible for her feelings. I showed it to Elena. She read it slowly, her face stiffened. "She's not actually apologizing," she said. "She's explaining why your hurt isn't valid and demanding you get over it." Exactly. I saved the letter in a folder alongside all of my voicemails and texts. Dr. Park used the term documentation, evidence that it wasn't all in my head. The wedding invitations were sent out in mid-September. Elegant cream cardstock with emerald green writing. Elena Osman and Miles Cross invite you to celebrate their marriage. No mention of the parents. No ordinary Mr. and Mrs. Cross would appreciate your visit. We're just claiming our own celebration. My mother got hold of one, possibly through a relative who received an invitation. She called using my father's phone, knowing I had blocked her number. I responded, assuming it was a work call. "Miles, we need to talk about this wedding," she said without hesitation. I hung up immediately. She called back 3 times. I've also blocked the number. The border felt good and necessary, like finally putting up a fence after years of people trampling through my yard. The week before the wedding, Uncle Bennett called. "Miles, I'm not calling to take sides," he assured me. "But I wanted to let you know that your grandma left you something in her will. A letter. The executor is willing to deliver it to you anytime you come by." I ran into him at a cafe the next day. Uncle Bennett appeared uneasy, torn between his brother's family conflict and his personal connection to me. "For what it's worth," he continued, handing me an envelope, "I believe you have valid reasons for what you're doing. I don't know all of the circumstances, but I've seen you around for years. I haven't seen them do the same." Approval from someone within the family system was more important than I expected. I thanked him and took the envelope home. Grandma Evelyn's letter was written in her distinctive wobbly script. "If you're reading this, my beloved Miles, I'm gone. I want you to know that I saw you. I saw how hard you worked to be a part of a family that didn't know how to welcome you. I saw you show up, help and care, only to be dismissed as an afterthought. I witnessed it and regret not speaking up. I was afraid of causing family friction and being labeled a meddler. But my silence was complicity, and I regret it. You deserved more than they gave you. Never believe you're wrong for wanting better care. Miles, live your life. Be happy, and remember that at least one member of this family accepted you for who you were and loved you unconditionally." I sobbed as I read it, and Elena embraced me on our couch as I mourned the only person who had understood. The wedding day was perfect. The October sky was clear, the leaves were turning gold and crimson, and everything was illuminated with fall light. Elena looked stunning in her gown, and I felt like the happiest guy alive. We married in a botanical park, surrounded by people who had always been there for us, and Elena's family welcomed me as if I had always belonged. During the ceremony, as the officiant discussed the families we are born into and the ones we choose, I felt something settle in my chest. Perhaps peace or acceptance. The family I was born into couldn't see me, but I had found others who could, and that was more than enough. We danced until midnight, toasted until we were delirious, and celebrated a partnership based on mutual respect and affection, which had never occurred in my family. Elena and I hadn't discussed keeping the photos private, but she had never hidden anything about her life, so I decided I didn't want to either. If my family saw them and realized how happy I was without them, that was their problem, not mine. My friends, Elena's family and co-workers have all joined us in celebrating the photos, which have received hundreds of likes and dozens of comments. Several of the names mentioned in the comments I recognized. My cousin Javier. Congratulations. I wish I could have been there. My Aunt Denise. What a lovely couple. I'm very happy for both of you. Brooke also used a simple love emoji to express everything and nothing. They had seen the wedding to which they had not been invited, and they now knew exactly how it felt. I did not respond to any of the family's comments, nor did I acknowledge or engage with them. I simply allowed them to exist as proof that I was moving forward and creating a life without them. Elena and I went on a 12-day honeymoon to New Zealand, where we hiked, adventured, and were completely unreachable. When we returned, there was a stack of mail, including bills, advertisements, and 4 more letters from my family. One from Brooke, one from Grant, and one from each of my parents, which I threw away without opening. "Don't you want to hear what they say?" Elena inquired. I shook my head. "Nothing they say will affect anything. They have 9 months to figure out what went wrong and contact out with real concern. They opted for guilt trips and manipulation instead. I'm done giving them chances to explain why my pain isn't justified." November arrived, bringing with it the anniversary of the forgotten Thanksgiving, a year since I discovered I was estranged from my own family. I marked it quietly, reflecting instead of celebrating. That year I got engaged, married, started treatment, strengthened friendships, excelled at work, and became more authentic than I had ever been. None of it required my family's participation. Nothing was diminished by their absence. If anything, their absence had created opportunities for growth that I had previously been too preoccupied to pursue. Dr. Samuel Park asked me how I felt about the anniversary. Grateful, I said, surprising myself. That day was the worst day, but it was also the day I started choosing myself. He grinned. That represents substantial progress. How do you view the likelihood of future reconciliation? I thought about it. I wasn't opposed to it, but it had to be on entirely different terms. They would have to admit their mistakes, accept responsibility, and demonstrate consistent change. I did not want to go back to the way things were. December saw an unexpected development. My father had a heart attack. Mild, according to Brooke's writing. He is stable in the hospital and under observation. I thought you should know. The message was completely neutral, not requesting that I attend, not guilt-tripping, but simply providing information. I sat with the news for several hours, sensing it was confusing. I didn't want my father to die, but I didn't want to rush to his bedside and make everything look perfect. Elena inquired as to what I planned to accomplish. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me believes I should leave. Part of me believes it is another deception, another crisis orchestrated to force interaction. She did not tell me what to do. She just stated that she would support any decision I made. Finally, I sent a postcard to the hospital. I hope you heal soon. There is nothing more. No visit, no phone call, and no reconciliation at his bedside. I simply acknowledged that I had received the news and wished him luck. My father was released 4 days later, with instructions for lifestyle changes and medication. Grant contacted me from a new phone number. Dad almost died, and you sent him a card. A card. What is wrong with you? His rage appeared familiar, even pleasant. What did you want me to do? I inquired. Show up, Grant said. Like family does. There it was again. The belief that I had to show up no matter how they treated me. Family shows up consistently, I told them, not just during a crisis. Where were you when I needed help? You were not present while I was going through my own difficulties. None of you were. So, no, I'm not going to rush to Dad's bedside to play happy family. Grant was quiet for a long time. When did you become so cold? He asked. I'm not cold, I explained. I'm simply unavailable to those who aren't available to me. That is known as boundaries. I hung up before he could respond. Christmas came, and for the first time in my life, I did not spend it with my biological family. Elena and I hosted a dinner party in our apartment for her family and close friends. We cooked together, laughed together, and played board games late into the night. It was warm and sincere, just like family reunions should be. There was no stress, no walking on eggshells, or pretending to be someone I wasn't. Simply being myself, and being appreciated for it. As we cleaned up that night, Elena said something that stuck with me. This is what you deserved all along. People who see you, pick you up, and show up on a regular basis. I'm glad you have it now. I was also happy. The pain for what I hadn't had was still there, and it probably would always be, but it was less severe today, tempered by the reality of what I did have. Brooke sent me a surprise email in January with the subject line, "No expectations, just thoughts." The email was lengthy, clearly written, and revised several times. She wrote about the previous year, about witnessing my withdrawal from their life, and how she was initially furious and upset before gradually coming to terms with it. I went to a therapist, she said, about family problems and my own troubles, and while talking about my relationship with our parents, I began to notice patterns I hadn't noticed before. The bias toward me, the fact that you were always expected to help but were rarely given assistance in return, and the fact that we all assumed you'd always be there because you always were. Miles, I can't speak for everyone else, but I apologize. I am sorry I did not notice it sooner. I apologize for contributing to the situation. I'm not asking for forgiveness or your return. I just wanted you to know I see it now, and I apologize. I reread the email 3 times before showing it to Elena. What do you think? She inquired. Is it genuine? I didn't know. Maybe. The confession of specific actions, the absence of excuses, and the explicit assertion that she wasn't expecting anything in return all indicated genuine consideration, but I'd been burned before by family members who said whatever they thought I wanted to hear. I think I want it to be genuine, I told you. But I'm not ready to trust it yet. I composed a response and waited 4 days before mailing it. Thank you for recognizing these trends, and thank you for taking the time to reflect. I'm not ready to restore our connection yet, but I'm glad you're attempting to understand your role in the situation. Short, straightforward, and boundaried. Brooke responded immediately. I understand. Take as much time as you need. The ball is in your court. Then nothing. No follow-ups or guilt trips. Just respect for my boundaries. It was a start. In February, work resumed with a new project. a community center to serve a low-income area. The design problems were difficult and intriguing, requiring my full attention. Elena was promoted at her marketing agency, which was well-deserved given her ability and hard work. We celebrated with supper at the same restaurant where we had our first date, toasting to new beginnings and continued success. My life seemed full without my family of origin, not in a fairy tale sense, but really rewarding. I had stopped expecting others to validate, see, or pick me. Instead, I had chosen myself, and by doing so, I had made room for those who truly wanted to be in my life. The math was simple. Subtract the people who bring you down, and add the people who bring you up. And the equation balances out. In March, Uncle Bennett called again. "Miles, I wanted to tell you before you heard it elsewhere. Your parents are selling their house and moving into a condominium. They are having an estate sale next month. The house I grew up in, which held both good and bad memories, would now belong to someone else." "Okay," I replied, unsure what he was expecting. "Your mom asked if you wanted to come get anything before the sale. Your room is still largely intact. Childhood memories, yearbooks and the like." I thought about it. Did I want something from the house? Is there anything physical that reminds you of your childhood when you felt invisible? "No," I replied. "I don't need anything." Uncle Bennett was quiet. "Are you sure? Some of it would be useful to have, photos and mementos." I appreciated his concern, but I remained confident. I spent 20 months letting go of that family. Returning to collect souvenirs seemed counterproductive. He understood, advised me to take care of myself, and then hung up. The finality of that decision seemed appropriate. April was my 36th birthday. Elena threw me a surprise party for the first time in my life. She'd coordinated with all of our friends, booked a private room at our favorite restaurant, and made everything perfect. When I walked in and saw 48 people yelling "surprise," I felt overwhelmed by love. These people had come out to show their support and take time out of their busy schedules to celebrate me. The contrast to previous birthdays, when my family's presence felt forced at best, was striking. That night, after everyone had left and we were cleaning up, I told Elena how much it meant to me. "You deserve to be celebrated," she said simply. "Always have. I am just glad I get to be the one doing it." The certainty in her voice, the complete lack of doubt about my worth, continued to surprise me, but I was learning to accept it and believe I deserved the love being offered. May marked 20 months since Thanksgiving, which altered everything. Dr. Samuel Park inquired whether I wanted to continue therapy, or if I was ready to go solo. "I think I'm good," I said. "I mean, I'll come back if I need to, but I think I've processed what I needed to process." He grinned. "You've done excellent work. You entered angry, hurt, and confused. You'll leave with clarity, boundaries, and a strong sense of self. That is exactly what therapy is intended to accomplish." We shook hands, and I felt lighter as I exited his office. The work was not completed. Healing never truly ends. But I had the tools now. I knew how to recognize unhealthy patterns. I knew how to set boundaries. I learned how to choose myself without guilt. June brought Father's Day. I didn't call, text, or acknowledge it at all. My phone stayed silent. My family had either accepted my boundaries or given up on me. I wasn't sure which, and I decided it didn't matter. The need for their approval, recognition, and love had gradually faded over the course of 20 months, until it was gone entirely. I cherished myself so much that their love, or lack thereof, no longer defined me. Elena and I spent the day at the beach, walking along the shoreline and talking about our future. She wished to start family planning as soon as possible. I felt prepared, ready to be the father I needed, present and engaged, actively choosing to spend time with my children. I was ready to start a family with different principles than the one I had left behind. July was unremarkable in the best way. Work, friends, date nights with Elena, weekend hikes, family dinners. The rhythm of a life well lived, devoid of drama, crisis, and manipulation. I realized I hadn't been thinking about my family enough. Days would go by without them entering my mind. They did so with a decrease in emotional intensity. The anger had subsided. The pain had subsided. What remained was mostly indifference, which felt therapeutic. You cannot hate people who are no longer important to you. The opposite of love is not hatred, it's apathy. I'd finally reached apathy. August brought another unexpected development. Grant showed up at my office. When my assistant called to say that someone named Grant Cross had requested to see me, my stomach dropped. I could have refused. I could have had security escort him out, but curiosity won. I went down to the lobby. Grant appeared rough, thin, old, and tired. "Miles," he asked, "can we talk?" "Only for 7 minutes." Against my better judgment, I led him to a conference room. We sat across from each other, using the table as a symbol. "I've been in therapy," Grant said without hesitation, "working through some issues. And I realized that I owed you an apology." "A real one," I waited. Grant drew a breath. "You were right. We have forgotten you. Not just on Thanksgiving, but for years beforehand. We acted as if you only existed to serve us. And when you stopped or set boundaries, we punished you rather than reflecting on our own behavior. That wasn't correct. I was wrong." He looked me in the eye. "I am sorry, Miles, genuinely. I do not expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I now understand what we did, and what I did." I was surprised at how the apology came across. Not with relief or vindication, but with sadness. "Why now?" I inquired. "After 20 months, why are you apologizing now?" Grant's face wrinkled slightly. "Because I'm divorced. In the process, I realized I had been treating Sloane in the same way we had treated you, taking her for granted, assuming she would always be there, and only seeing her when I needed something. She left me, Miles, and she was right to leave. I was a terrible partner." He wiped his eyes roughly. "Losing her made me realize what we had done to you. So how did we lose you? And I apologize. I understand it is too late, but I apologize." We sat silently for a long time. "I appreciate the apology," I finally said. "And it means something you understand now. But Grant, our relationship is over. I'm not sure if there is a way forward for us." He nodded as if he expected the response. "I understand. I just wanted you to hear it. That is all." He left without asking for anything else, and I returned to my office, feeling strange. Perhaps vindicated, but also heartbroken over what both sides had lost. September brought a phone call from my mother. I almost didn't respond, but something made me do so. "Miles," she said, her voice shaky, "I know I have no right to call, but I wanted to tell you that your father and I are getting divorced." The news knocked me sideways. "What?" She laughed bitterly and sadly. "It turns out that when all the distractions, the kids and grandkids and the family drama are removed, we don't really like each other. We've been held together by the structures around us, which are collapsing." I was unsure what to say. "I apologize?" It came out as a question. My mother sighed. "Do not be. It is overdue. But Miles, it's made me reflect on a lot of things. About the family we created. Regarding the mistakes we made. About you." She paused. "I want you to know that I see it now. There is favoritism. The way we made you feel invisible while expecting you to always be present. That was incorrect, and I apologize once more. It appears that my 20-month absence prompted some serious reflection throughout the organization." "Thank you for saying that," I responded cautiously. My mother made a sob-like sound and said, "I don't expect you to forgive me or come back. I know I ruined our relationship, but I needed you to know that I understood why you left and that you made the right decision." The conversation seemed surreal. After 20 months of silence and firm boundaries, she was finally saying what I needed to hear, but the need for them had faded. I had built a life without her approval, and her understanding now felt like closing a door I'd already walked out. "I appreciate it, Mom." "Really?" We talked for a few more minutes, awkwardly and carefully, before saying goodbye, and I hung up, feeling strange. Not happy, not vindicated, simply done. That chapter had ended, and her apology was the period at the end of the last sentence. On our first anniversary in October, Elena and I returned to the botanical garden where we had married and walked through the fall gardens holding hands. "This has been the best year of my life," she informed me. "Despite all the family drama?" I inquired. "Because of how you handled the family drama," she explained. "You chose yourself. You chose us. You created a life based on your values, not their expectations. That requires courage." We renewed our vows in private, just the two of us and the golden trees surrounding us, promising to keep choosing each other, to show up consistently, and to be the family we both deserved. Later that night, Elena told me she was pregnant, and it felt like the beginning of something new, unlike the family that had forgotten me. This child would know what it meant to be seen, valued, and accepted without question, and I would make certain of that. 3 years after the forgotten Thanksgiving, November arrived again, and I marked the occasion by volunteering at a homeless shelter, serving meals to people who had been forgotten by society, just as my family had forgotten me. The work felt meaningful, and these people were visible to me, even if they were invisible to others. During a break, I checked my phone and found a text from Brooke. I know today may be difficult, but I wanted you to know I'm thinking of you. It was the first time anyone recognized the significance of the date. Thank you, I texted back. It means a lot. Brooke and I had been slowly rebuilding, with lunches every few months and careful conversations that respected boundaries. It wasn't the same as before, but it was more honest, and that was what mattered. In December, my father began dating someone new, and my mother was having a difficult time dealing with it. Brooke kept me informed via text, not expecting me to do anything, and I appreciated her respect for my boundaries, even as she navigated her own complex emotions. When she asked if I wanted to spend Christmas with just the two of us and our partners, away from everyone else, I surprised myself by saying yes. On December 22nd, we met at a restaurant. It was awkward at first, all of us feeling out the boundaries of these new relationships. But by the end of the meal, something had shifted. Brooke and Travis were treating me like an actual person, asking about my life and sharing theirs. Elena fit in easily, and I realized this was what family could be. Chosen, boundaried, reciprocal, not perfect, but genuine. The pregnancy progressed, Elena's belly grew, and we prepared for a daughter by painting the nursery, buying tiny clothes, and taking parenting classes. Elena's family was involved and excited, throwing us a baby shower that felt joyful and genuine. Brooke came, brought a thoughtful gift, and respected all the boundaries. Grant sent a card and a gift certificate but did not come. My parents were not invited and did not ask to be. The clear delineations felt healthy. I was now creating my own family on my own terms, and whether or not the family I was born into would be included was entirely up to them. Audrey Evelyn Cross Osman, named for my grandmother and carrying both of our last names, was born on a rainy April morning. She was perfect, tiny, and mine. Elena's parents were at the hospital within 45 minutes. Brooke came 2 days later, held her niece carefully, and cried, "She's beautiful, Miles. You're going to be an amazing dad." Looking at Audrey, at this tiny person who would never doubt she was wanted, never wonder if she mattered, I felt something. I'd found it with Elena, built it with our friends, and created it with our daughter. My family of origin had forgotten me at Thanksgiving, and I'd stopped remembering them everywhere else. But in that forgetting, in that stopping, I'd remembered myself, found myself, and built something better than what I'd lost. And in the end, that was enough. Thank you for sticking with me until the end.